Some of the most common advice for anyone who is trying to figure out how to focus a little bit better is to use a Pomodoro timer or a Pom timer. If you've never heard about it, if they've never worked for you, or if you have questions about how you can adapt it, this is the video for you. So let's get into it. First of all, let's define what we're talking about even. A Pomodoro, or a Pom, as I like to say, is a 25-minute work session followed by a break. This was invented by a guy in his kitchen who had a tomato shaped timer, hence the name Pomodoro, that went up to 25 minutes. So he would set the timer, he would work on a task, and then once the timer went off, he would be done, he would take a break, and then he would repeat. The reason that I share this story is A, I think it's charming, and B, I think it's useful to know that the length of the container was dictated by this very specific timer and not necessarily by brain science. But here's what I think really works about a Pomodoro system. It's the rhythm between you set a purposeful focus block and then you have a purposeful break. You focus with intention, you break with intention. The magic is in the rhythm between the focus and the break, and not necessarily in the duration. I have seen people do effective palms for 45 minutes. I've seen 10-minute palms be amazing. I have seen anywhere sort of between 5 minutes and an hour work really well, depending on the brain and the task involved. It's also not the break length. 5 minutes can feel good, but it can also feel too short. The standard Pomodoro rhythm is you do four palms of 25 minutes with 5 minutes in between each break, and then 15 minutes at the end. But I found that for different people in different times of life, the break length or duration is less important. The important thing about a Pomodoro is that it's a container that you get into willingly and exit out of when the timer goes off. And that becomes something that you can measure, as opposed to just sitting down at your desk and hoping that by the time you need to do whatever the next thing is, the work that you are trying to get done is finished. So let's talk a little bit about different ways that you can use them. I'm a big fan of short palms. And by this, I mean anything less than sort of 25 minutes and under. I think that short palms are really great if it is a scary task, if it's an intimidating task. I think they're great if you are a person who gets distracted easily. 5 minutes can feel a lot less daunting. 10 minutes of a palm or a focus session can feel a lot less daunting than like 4 hours of writing. So use short palms with abandon. The worst thing that's going to happen is that the timer will go off and you'll want to keep working and then you can reset it. But the best thing about it is that it really lowers the barrier to entry. So if even 25 minutes feels intimidating for a task, set it lower and see what happens. But on the other side, long palms also have their use. So I will be honest that most of the time when I am doing palms, I'm doing them between 45 and 50 minutes. Mostly because a lot of the tasks that I use Palms for, the ones that I avoid, the ones that are difficult for me, are deep focus tasks like writing or editing. And when that timer goes off at 25 minutes or less, I'm just gotten into the flow of it and I'm irritated that I have to take a break. So I usually do a 50-minute with a 10-minute break or a 45 with a 15-minute break to give myself a chance to more fully go in and out of that task without worrying about needing to stop it too soon. So if you found that you've done palms before, but that the timer always went off too early and you always wanted to keep going, that isn't a sign that you should never use a timer. It might just be that a longer interval session is going to be useful for you. But no matter the length of your Pomodoro session, I think that one of the things that's really effective about a Palm timer in general is that it acts a little bit as a mindfulness bell. I'm sure that I'm not the only person on this planet who has ever sat down, set a timer for a task, like, okay, I'm going to work on this writing for 25 minutes. And then at the end of that 25 minutes, I'm shopping for holiday gifts, or I'm researching a new dentist, or I'm downstairs folding laundry. I wander away all of the time. Most of us have had that experience. But the best thing about a timer is that when it rings, it kind of brings me back to myself. And I'm like, okay, did I mean to be shopping for holiday gifts right now? Or was I supposed to be working on this writing project? So if you can think about that bell as a reminder that you set for yourself in advance to check in and say, okay, what did I mean to be doing? What am I actually doing? And do I want to switch on purpose? This can be a great tool if you are prone to rabbit holes or sort of like distracting tasks that spoke off of your main task. And then all of a sudden, you're 7 layers of citations deep. Or if you are a person that tends to get distracted by things like your email or other tasks, having a timer that goes off at a regular interval gives you a built in chance to check in and see if you're doing what you mean to. A note for some of my executive function family, whether that's ADHD or some other kind of neurodiversity, you can 100% become immune to your timer sound or the way that it's flashing. I switch timer apps for this reason all of the time because every so often I will learn how to work right past the sound of that timer. So just because the timer sound doesn't work for you anymore doesn't mean that the concept of timer will. And feel free to change up that sound. Okay. Another thing that can be really, really useful about a Pomodoro is what I call the one palm challenge. This is a tool that I use with a lot of my clients that are feeling avoidant, that they don't want to start something, it seems too big. And we have a rule. Okay. You set a timer for 25 minutes or your chosen palm length, and you have to work, give it a genuine effort on that scary task for that entire palm. It doesn't matter if you free write about how much you hate that task. It doesn't matter if all you do is open it up. But for 25 minutes, you have to give it an honest try. And if at the end of that 25 minutes, you still don't want to do it, great. Then you can switch to another task without guilt or without shame, knowing that you'll try another time to come back to the big, scary, hard thing. But the secret of a one palm challenge is I would say that probably 75, 80, maybe even higher, 80% of the time, 25-minute, I only have to do this for 25 minutes mindset gives you a chance to try something that's really scary and it seems a little bit less hard once you've already worked on it for 15 minutes and gotten that document open or started taking some notes or rereading what you had already. I love the one palm challenge, and I sometimes will do it in the morning. And then if it doesn't work, I'll repeat it again in the afternoon just to see if I can give myself multiple chances to try the hard thing, knowing that I won't make myself sit at the desk if it's not going to work. I'll switch to something else that needs to get done because who doesn't have something else that needs to get done? One other cool thing about Pomodoros that I really like is that you can use them to sort of check your time distribution. I'm a big fan of logging your time for a variety of reasons. I don't do it all of the time, but it's a really useful way to get some data about where my time is going, what tasks are taking the most of my attention and my energy. And Pomodoros are a great way to check that. So I will sometimes set a goal. I want to do 4 palms a day on my dissertation, and I want to do no more than 2 palms on this grading every day. Well, you grade, you do your 2 palms, and then you say, okay, I've hit my grading quota for today. It's time to switch. Or vice versa. I've done all of the writing and I really need to get some grading done now. Or I want to spend less than 1 palm on email. I want to spend only these 25 minutes going over this particular task. If you're finding it hard to know sort of where your time is going and how long it's actually taking you to do things, keeping track of the palms that you do and what you do during them can be an easy way to integrate both some focus support and a little bit more visibility into what things you're actually spending time and energy on. So, I'm a really big fan of palms. I think that they're a powerful tool for all kinds of brains, not necessarily because they promise 25 minutes with 5 minutes of a perfect break, but because they're built in intentional tools. You set a palm on purpose, you start that timer on purpose, and then hopefully you check in at the end of it to make sure that you're still doing what you meant to be doing. Or if not, that you're actually agreeing to keep going in the path that you sort of discovered through yourself. So, whether you use them to help you warm up into really hard tasks, whether you use them to check in on the way that your attention and focus drift throughout the day, or simply to use them as a reminder to get up every hour, get some water, maybe walk around, rest your eyes a little bit. No matter how you use them, I think they're a really powerful tool to know about.